What's up, gamers? Aaron Shack here, and we are live with episode number 59 of the Shackcast. Today we have a number of interesting gaming and tech news topics to talk about you with today. One of the big ones is that on September 3rd, which would be yesterday, PlayStation dropped an official blog here with an important update on Concord. This was a shooter, a PvP hero shooter that only 3 months ago we were introduced to at a PlayStation showcase, and they basically introduced it with, a bunch of like CGI cutscenes and like introducing you to the characters in the world, and it had a very like Guardians of the Galaxy kind of vibe to it. And we thought, okay, this could be like an interesting, like a single player, maybe like a co-op 4-player like narrative thing where we go on a little journey together, a nice little PvE game. And then, the further it goes on, the more we realize it's like, okay, now it's starting, they show some gameplay and it's like, okay, now it's looking like a hero shooter. It's PvP. It's got, some elements of what you see in Destiny from the hunter dodge, just the way the combat flows and the way you move. Anyway, the important update is here, and it is that they are closing down the game. Servers will be shut down on Friday, September 6, 2024. So, they've been listening to our feedback since the launch of Concord on PlayStation 5 and PC, and they want to thank everyone that's joined the journey aboard the North Star. Your support and passionate community has grown around the game, has meant the world to us. Many qualities of the experience resonated with players. We also recognize other aspects of the game, and our initial launch didn't land the way we intended. And it really had a lot to do with player counts. I don't like to put too much stock in player counts, but they were extraordinarily low for this game. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League beats this game. There's dozens of other games that we could mention that completely dwarf this game in terms of gamers with interest in playing this game. And if we get into it further, the genre is oversaturated. You have Fortnite, you have Destiny, you have The Division, you have Warframe, you have Overwatch, you have Marvel Heroes coming in now, Marvel Rivals, hero shooter coming in. You've got Valorant, you've got all these other games that, might be different threads of the same genre, but all of these games are vying for your constant attention and your support. If the game's free to play, then they want you to buy skins and new characters and whatever, expansion packs, whatever it may be. With Concord, they had a $40 price tag, and then you get into the game. And also with the idea that there were going to be like weekly cutscenes that would sort of allow the narrative to branch out further and further, which I actually think is really cool. That's just something that's really lofty and really hard to deliver. I mean, Destiny hardly pulls that off in an interesting way. The seasonal stuff is very FOMO, and that's kind of what I was dreading with this game. I was like, dude, I'm already playing like a dozen other games, and I already have like my favorite live service shooters like Destiny that I like to play on a regular basis. So I'm not really interested in starting up a new one here. So that's kind of some of the struggles that they have to deal with. I mean, Fortnite dominates the space. It's really hard to just launch a new shooter. Now, granted, they started developing this game about 8 years ago. I mean, let me actually look at like at what games we were playing 8 years ago. Okay. So if we go back, let's be generous here. We'll go back to 2016 games. Uncharted 4, Thief's End, okay. Let's try to find. Overwatch had just come out. Battlefield 1 was out there. Titanfall 2 came out at a bad time, wasn't exactly capitalizing, right? No Man's Sky was out. Hitman, Watch Dogs 2, Tom Clancy's The Division, Gears of War 4, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, the BioShock Collection, Mafia 3. And I mean, Destiny 1 was out, and Destiny 2 was all set to come out in 2017. So, I mean, the time that they were formulating their ideas and sort of looking around the gaming space of like, okay, where's our game fit in? Okay, it's obviously, quite similar to this Overwatch game that came out and this Battleborn game, that died shortly around that time. And of course, Lawbreakers going down that same route. It's unfortunate, but this is just what they were looking at the time. So maybe at the time they might have thought it was a good idea. It just anyone could almost tell you that it's not a good idea, and it's a very hard space. You have to be very competitive. You have to be very innovative. And this game, it just looks fine. Like it's not innovative. It doesn't make me want to play it. It doesn't give me a reason to set aside games like Destiny or even the upcoming Marvel Rivals that I haven't even played yet. I'm more interested in that than I did even when this game had a beta, which was free for people to jump in and play. I was like, no, I'm so busy. I just don't have time to check it out. It looks interesting, but I mean, I would have to, I'd either have to just play it myself or do like a live stream and maybe see if friends want to get on. And the interest just wasn't really there. So, I mean, there you have it when it comes to that. So, they've decided to take the game offline beginning September 6th and explore options, including those that will better reach our players. Now, I wonder what that means. Okay, we'll talk a little more about that, but I want to get through the rest of their statement because there's not really a whole lot here. While we determine the best path ahead, Concord sales will cease immediately, and we will begin to offer a full refund for all gamers who have purchased the game for PS5 or PC. If you purchase the game from the PlayStation Store, PlayStation Direct, a refund will be issued back to your original payment method. Okay? And of course, all the digital fronts, there's all the details here. But also, once refunded, you will also have no access to the game. So, they said, we'll keep you updated, and thank you again to all the free gunners who have joined us in the Concord Galaxy. Now, this is something that they have said that they have spent between $150 million and $200 million on this project. They've spent 8 years. Firewalk, the studio that did this game, I'm wishing them the best because it's not personal, and it's not. You don't want anyone to experience this level of failure. There's really not there are reasons why this is happening, but it's unfortunate, and you don't want to see the impending layoffs that are probably going to happen as a result of this. Either leadership is going to look down at the underlings and say, oh, this is all your fault, and fire them like we usually see, or maybe it'll be a rare occasion of, hey, the people in leadership who thought that live service and, PvP hero shooters would be an easy cash cow and just force the studio to do this project, maybe some of them take accountability and step down, and we find new leadership. Now, what could this mean, really? What could this mean when they say here that they want to explore other options? It could be that potentially that means, hey, let's go free to play and see what happens from there, right? I just don't see enough interest. It's like the player counts have been 1,000 and less. That's hard. I mean, even Destiny in its lowest of lows, other games in their lowest points where there's a content drought, or even if players are upset, like Helldivers 2 right now, a lot of players are upset with the way that weapons are balanced, and so they're review bombing the game and they're stepping away from the game and probably playing other games at the moment. This game is reaching a low that is lower then I mean it's just astronomically low, especially for a first-party PlayStation. Or, well, I guess it would be a. Well, because Firewalk, I don't think it's owned by PlayStation. I don't know. I have to double check that. But what we're seeing here with, okay, it is part of PlayStation Studios. Okay, just wanted to clarify. So yeah, this is quite the failure to see a first-party PlayStation Studio and one of their big games, obviously a big AAA game here that they've spent a lot of time and a lot of money on, to flop. So it's been 2 weeks. The game has been out for 2 weeks, and it's allegedly somewhere between 150, 200, or yeah, maybe 100 to 200 million. Sorry. I've been looking at a lot of numbers this week, so the 150 million just came out of nowhere. But so 100 million to 200 million spent on the project. They have only made $1 million off this game. So that's colossal failure. Like, it's not even like, hey, we recouped our development costs, or like, hey, we recouped half. Like, you know, we didn't totally fail. You know, maybe we can make it up down the road. But I mean, all their projections, like they have like all this seasonal content. Let me look at the Concord roadmap, because I mean they had a roadmap too of what to expect after launch, and let me see if I can pull it up here. You know, obviously I never get a good photo. Okay, this is courtesy of Games Radar here. But I mean, they obviously had like Season 1, October, Season 2, January, new free gunners, new variants, you know, quality of life updates, cosmetics and rewards, vignettes. You know, they talk about building the crew, 6 modes and 12 maps, 16 free gunners, and 8 variants. Play, progress, and personalize. You know, it's got all the right, you know, sort of DNA. And, you know, it has the support. You know, they're even talking about Season 3 in April 2025. It's just that the interest is not there, right? So, I mean, let's dive into that a little more, because, you know, and we don't have too much more to talk about here, but I wanted to go over to Google Images, and let's just look at Concord's character designs, okay? Try to, like, okay, well, you know, people are saying it's some of the ugliest characters. I'll leave it up to you to decide on stuff like this. I mean, I wish I could, like, I really hate that you don't, like, full screen some of this stuff. But I mean, you know, you definitely see here that you know, there's some interesting characters. I think there's some that look interesting. I think Lennox here looks particularly appealing. Let me open that. Yeah, he's kind of the guy in the orange jacket. I mean, this lady looks cool. This guy kind of reminds me of somebody from the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, there's definitely something that, yeah, I mean, it just takes like 10 years for all these to load. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, we got Lennox. Kind of like bring some of these up. You got Vale, you got your sniper. Like, that's not terrible. You know, Haymar, she's cool. Okay. This guy looking a little weird. You know, colors are a little different, but, you know, it's their world, some aliens. I think the robot guy was really cute. You know, looked really interesting in a lot of the cutscenes there. But this is where I think things start to get wild. Like, you sort of start looking at characters, and they're just, you know, a lot of video games. Okay, well, it brought up TikTok. I didn't think it was going to do that. A lot of video games will have you playing as characters that you actually want to look like, right? Like, you idolize them in some way. You know, that's why our superheroes are, you know, muscular men and women, you know, wearing tight clothes and stuff, and they are people that we sort of idolize in some ways. You know, and some of these aren't too bad. Like, I kind of see what they're doing here with, like, the padded space armor. It's almost like an homage to the retro futuristic kind of tech here. But then you have, like, the weird, you know, bright colored stuff and colors that don't match, and just designs that look kind of awful. And I mean, I think I really feel like this image kind of keeps showing up with the, yeah, and I mean, obviously there's people here saying like, I fixed it, you know, I redesigned it or whatever. But I mean, you kind of have these characters that are not as appealing to play as. And you also have like colors and designs that just leave a lot of players confused. Now, this could be subjective. This could be completely subjective to some people. I actually think this design's really dope. Okay, it won't. All right, it's not bringing it up. But yeah, it's this guy that kind of has like the Michael Jackson, like Thriller kind of vibes. And I think he kind of plays like a hunter, essentially. Yeah, there he is right there. He's got the hat. He's got the vibe. I mean, there's some characters that look cool, but I also think some of the colors are a little bit of a miss. Because, you know, it does start to look a lot like Fortnite and Overwatch, and even Call of Duty with a lot of its wacky, you know, bright colored characters that have entered the series recently. I mean, there's just, you know, there's just some things that just don't quite hit here. I mean, I think we've probably more or less browsed through a lot of the characters, like ItZ here. I mean, Jabali looks kind of cool. I mean, there's just not a lot of these. Some of these designs and colors are just not appealing at all. And granted, there probably are some like reskins and different color schemes that we could look at later on down the line. But I mean, just none of this is appealing. And that's kind of what caused me to look at the game. I was like, I just don't think this design is any good. It doesn't look appealing. I think it's nothing to do with the things that the internet rages about. You know, the internet's raging about woke and DEI and inclusion, all these various things. But I think there's an extent where you try to include too much, and then you end up just catering to no one. You kind of have to cater to a space, you know? You have to say like, hey, our characters are going to be retro futuristic, they're going to be muscular, or hey, no, this is going to be like a realistic portrayal, it's going to be people of all sizes. But when it's like a bright colored mess and you have some characters that look somewhat serious and other characters that's like, you know, just doesn't quite make sense. I think Overwatch found a way with their characters to have people of all different shapes and sizes and genders and stuff like that. And they found a way to work with the color chart, with color theory, and very good color schemes with their characters. And they chose, you know, a lot of the time they chose bright and dark colors and stuff like that. And they never really put weird and bad colors together in the way that this game does. You know, we're seeing a lot of like purple and aqua and orange next to each other. And it's just, some of those are like weird and just don't work right. So you have stuff like that happening. All right. Just refreshing here. Okay. So, I don't know. Can it be saved? There are these theories that Concord could come back in, you know, some sort of free-to-play state, but I really don't see it working because they're going to have to monetize it, right? They're either going to have to sell you characters or DLC or maps, or bottom line, at least the clothing and the recolors and, you know, weapon skins or whatever, you know, try to sell you on something, right? There's got to be some sort of renew the investment here. You know, they can't just rely on, you know, either the initial $40 sale, which wasn't working because Destiny, Fortnite, all these other games are already in a free-to-play state, and now you're trying to charge people to get in the door, okay? So it's a little difficult there. So how they make money? I mean, that's what I see, is like either this game was going to fizzle out a few years from now, and Sony was going to sink a lot of money into keeping the servers up and, you know, adding to the experience. The developers would be adding to the experience, and, you know, you'd have to keep the servers up even after you ceased development on the game. Even if you were to give up, you would have to say, okay, you know, we'll leave it up for a while because obviously people enjoy playing the game. But I think at this point they were like, holy crap, this is bad. We've got to cut our losses. we got to go back to the drawing board. So what does that look like? Does it come back as a PvP game? Do they introduce some PvE elements, that games like Overwatch have tried to do and failed? I think PvE could be really cool. Could it be even character redesigns? Could they just go back to the drawing board entirely? Or could they sort of go with what our initial impressions were when we first saw the trailer for Concord, which was, hey, this looks like a really good single-player game. If it has, like, the bones of a really good, like, space adventure, and we make decisions, and obviously it's already got the gunplay is there, you have unique characters. You could let the player take a role as any of the characters in the crew, and they can have, special perks and special weapons that they use and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. So, I mean, it could come back as that. And I don't know. It would be a little wild to have spent this much money and then just completely trash it and not try to figure out if any part of this game can be salvaged, even if it's to sort of repackage it and make it a different genre or a different style, or, just don't go into a field that is already incredibly oversaturated and think you can compete with these titans and make money. It's really hard. Really hard to do. So, next topic we have here on the show. Concord will be taken offline this Friday. GameStop retro stores. This is kind of interesting. Not really something I was expecting, but I will have links in the description to everything that we talk about today. But GameStop retro stores are opening, and I just kind of linked a little article here from Comic Book Gaming that you can check out. I'm going to head over here to the retro gaming website here as a part of GameStop. And we can take a peek here. Like, they have a Nintendo Wii U console, 32 gigabyte. That's the black one. It says $119 or $113 for pros. This is, United States of America pricing here. Just kind of scrolling down looking at games, right? Like Wind Waker on the GameCube, $59. Smash Melee, $44. And these look like they might not even have the case. I mean, the Twin Snakes freaking banger game, $89.99. I mean, if that's in the case, it could be really good. Yeah, Luigi's Mansion, $44. Star Fox, $24. Wii Sports, $32.99. Looking at some Wii games, Sonic and the Secret Rings, $12.99. So, I mean, prices are all over the place. Here's Skyward Sword for the Wii, $27.99. Wreck-It Ralph. I don't think I ever actually played this game. What's it? Is the Wreck-It Ralph game like a banger? Because, I mean, I just watched the movie recently. I don't want to play any... Okay, they even have the Fix-It Felix Jr. arcade. That's interesting. Okay, well, I'll look into that myself. Pikmin, $29. Donkey Kong Country Returns, $19. I mean, some of these prices aren't stupid, Like Super Mario Land, $19. Pokemon's obviously very valuable, 50, $60. As we're seeing here. Four Swords. I mean, this is a great way. I mean, if some of these prices are actually, like, not outrageous, like a lot of retro game stores and, all the different, eBay and Amazon and stuff like that, where you have copies of Silent Hill going for, $200 to $400. There's your HD collection. There's Amazing Spider-Man on PS3. There's the whole Jack and Daxter collection on PS3. I mean, I could see this as a way to get, like, those games that you kind of slept on or forgot about, or maybe games that you used to rent and, would actually like to own, There's Vice City. That's actually... That OG Xbox version of Vice City was actually a banger. And so here you can actually see that they have a lot of different platforms. So let's check a few before we zip out of here. I'm gonna say let's look at Super Nintendo and Dreamcast, because I think we kind of got a vibe on the other stuff. Okay, some Super Nintendo games: Super Mario World, Super Mario RPGs, like $100. I mean, some of these other games being like $20, $25. That's not bad at all. SimCity, $12.99. I mean, I could definitely see, yeah, Lion King, total banger. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, absolute banger there. I mean, there's definitely some value there. I mean, if these prices remain competitive, this is good. Sonic Adventure 2 is obviously very popular, 89. 37 for the first game, which I think is incredible. Shenmue, $20. Power Stone games are really banger. 1 and 2, absolutely incredible. Part 2 being 99, and that's probably without a case. I'm just basing this on their screenshots here. Resident Evil 3, I'd actually like to own that on the Dreamcast. I'd like to pick those up there. Crazy Taxi, I might have that. If I don't, I might need to go check. Let's do page 2. Do page 2 here. Oh, GTA 2. GTA 2 right there. Pretty neat. Marvel vs. Capcom 2. There's Code Veronica. That'd be fun. That'd be fun to have. Blue Stinger is like the original Dead Rising. There's the first Power Stone for 49. Blue Stinger is essentially Dead Rising before Dead Rising. Gauntlet Legends, 34. I mean, these prices are really good. I have to say they're not bad. Crazy Taxi 2, $17.99. I don't even know if you can find this game. This game is really, like, I don't think it ever launched on, like, Steam or anything, so I don't know. We'll have to follow up on that later. That's interesting. So, GameStop going retro. It might not be a complete and total mistake here. The next thing I want to pull up is this game called Black State. And it does sort of seem to have this vibe where it looks like Metal Gear Solid, oh my gosh, what's it called? Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Welcome, Micah. How you doing? So, yeah, I mean, it seems to combine elements of, you know, Max Payne with, like, the slow-motion gunplay. It's got the over-the-shoulder, you know, stealth stuff. You know, it gives me, you know, kind of the Metal Gear Solid and Splinter Cell type of vibes here. Obviously, this is a work in progress. This is alpha footage here. Yeah, and obviously there's people immediately trying to compare it with, you know, Metal Gear Solid in different ways. It looks gorgeous. I mean, everything looks cool. You know, I guess we just got to see what this ends up looking like when it actually launches. Yeah, and like each door will take you to like a drastically new place. Yeah, this is probably Unreal Engine 5. Yeah, I think a lot of developers are excited by the graphical fidelity and, you know, some of the gameplay and stuff that they can create and how incredible they can make games look with relative ease. But yeah, it really has that Metal Gear Solid 5 look to it. It's reminding me a lot of what it's like to like sneak around and storm a base in one of those games. But it does look good. It does look interesting. So you're like running through these labs and museums and stuff. I think the footage is obviously kind of repeating at this point. But I mean, you see the shell casings popping out. I mean, you see blood. You see, you know, the dodge rolls and stuff like that. It's interesting stuff. I just wanted to point that out. That is called Black State. You can check out several minutes of gameplay. I dropped a link in the description. We only have a couple more topics here that I want to check out on the show. Let me double check on the outline here. Yeah, I think we'll just talk about these last few quick hits here. So I want to talk about why I love Black Myth WuKong. It's moments like this clip that make this game of the year to me. Not only do you get incredible visuals, storytelling, gameplay, and incredible and addictive combat that gets deeper the more proficient you become. Sometimes you just get one or two of the Holy Trinity. Good graphics, but poor narrative and or gameplay. You can also have your cake and eat it too. Sometimes you can have all three, right? I know other people beat this boss first try, and I think that's cool. For me, it took several tries. I also tried to avoid using consumables and stuff, ultimately making things harder on myself by not using a potion that would cure fire buildup. Anyway, I learned all the Black Bear Gwai's attacks and how to dodge them when my openings for attack were, and how to gauge the distance of my thrust attack. Going back and watching this moment, seeing how I've learned and grown from this is truly incredible. Seeing the triumphant music kick in as I was getting in some epic combos was exhilarating. Most games have loud and oppressive, almost evil sounding music playing that make you fear the boss. While this game has that too, I love the shift that makes the fight seem epic with the music. This is a battle that when the tides shift, you can feel it. I've been diving into the lore in the journal of the game and of the story, the novel, The Journey to the West. It's an interesting story full of unfamiliar characters, and I'm fascinated by all of it. It also reminds me of my journey with Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Every new challenge is another mountain to climb. Only this game constantly rewards you with secret bosses, armor, weapons, and skills that you can utilize. People will say, well, it's only a boss rush, or it's only just the staff weapon that you're using, or it's you only like it because the graphics are good, you know? They know nothing of the game and of the experience. Imagine if we whittled every game down to such a base and poor assumption. Mario Brothers is a boss rush every 4 levels. You never know what's around the corner in Black Myth WuKong. The Souls genre we praise so much would also be considered a boss rush, since most of the game is wandering from encounter to encounter, much like you do in Metal Gear Solid. I talk about why I love games and I share my passion for them. I don't water them down to catchphrases, and I don't do angry hate reviews. I know how to figure out what games are for me and what games are for the right people if it's not for me. I don't assign scores, as that only serves to discuss our art as a number and compare them as such via Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes and overanalyze things. My game is better than your game from 6 years ago because look at the aggregated scores. You know, people do that. This isn't my review, but what I'm typing here is what reviews and game discussions should be about. You should know from the review if a game is for you or not, if it's enjoyable or good. Not everyone will have the same experience. It's all subjective, but watering any art down to a number is insulting, even with high praise, because it only serves to forever be compared in an ever-growing list of numbers and data. Thanks for reading. I love Black Myth WuKong. Give the channel a nice subscription if you're interested in more. Check the links in my bio. Black Myth WuKong. I'm just going to show like a little bit of gameplay right here. This was the fight I was talking about with the Black Bear Gwai. I found it to be very challenging and difficult. It's a fight from pretty early on. It's the end of the first chapter of the game, and it really is like a big and fun fight and an interesting challenge. You know, the bear kind of turns into this flaming, smoky mist, and you have to kind of dodge those attacks, and then he also combines fire attacks, and you have to dodge all these attacks. And like I said, I wasn't using a potion to deal with the fire buildup, which is in the arena. And then, of course, if you get hit by his attacks, that's also building up fire. So here I transformed into Guangxi, which is the wolf transformation. We defeated this guy, and we were able to now use his spirit as one of WuKong's many abilities. You have different staff stances that you can use. You have different spells, like the immobilization spell, which allows you to freeze your enemies here. Pretty cool. I really love this game, and just going back and like seeing these moments of how I overcame various challenges, it's just really cool to see, even just in a few days or weeks, how far that I've come in this experience. So that's why I love Black Myth WuKong, and I had to make it part of the show because, maybe people are confused about, well, what do you see about this game that makes you think that it's game of the year? What's so great? Is it just the pretty graphics, or is it just another Souls type of game that you're just, in love with? Maybe you just like the genre a lot. Boom, right there. That feeling when you actually get that win. Look at the look on my face. Like right here. Look at the look on my face when I get that last poke. Boom. Just that vicious scream. I was really happy. That's what ends up happening, You get that one moment where it's like you've got it, and it was close at that point. I think I was one shot, he was one shot, it was a narrow win, and that's what made it feel all the more good. What's up, Jay? How you doing, man? Can't wait to try. I agree, man. I agree. It's definitely a game that's worth the play. The next thing, we don't have a whole lot of details on this, but Destiny Rising is real. It's going to be this is the hero character shooter based in the Destiny world. I had kind of assumed that it was canceled with all the other stuff, but this is going to be something that I guess Bungie and NetEase are working together on, and NetEase is going to be leading development on this. It's going to be a mobile game that sort of fleshes out the Destiny universe, and it's a mobile game that appears to be a hero shooter, which will allow us to probably play as like characters like Zavala, Ikora, maybe Cade, who knows what sort of characters, Yeah, exactly. I know. It's right off the heels of us talking about the failure of Concord on the show, we're already talking about another perspective hero shooter. Yeah, I don't know if it's the right way to go. I mean, maybe there's an audience for this because it is a mobile game. So maybe if it's mobile, it's free to play. Maybe it appeals to fans of all ages. I think, we did see this statement from Bungie that they were trying to appeal to a younger audience because they were kind of displeased that their audience is so much older, but actually the Destiny audience being older means that we have the money. We're the ones that work jobs and we make money. We're not children who can't afford to play the game. We have to ask mommy and daddy for the credit card, like the Fortnite players do. So yeah, and that's very true. Not even Overwatch is doing it right now. They're kind of on a downtrend. We have this hero shooter that's coming from Valve. You've got Valorant coming to consoles now. If Destiny's going to try to enter this space, and Concord failed, but I also think there's something to do with, bad timing, bad project, bad design, poor choice of color. A lot of things that we looked at earlier in the show on Concord as to what's going wrong with that. It was just a bad decision that they made 8 years ago based on the data that was available to them, which was, granted, probably not the best data. Overwatch was doing great at the time, and, Destiny was doing fine. Destiny 2 was, only a year away. Yeah, exactly. What do you mean you can't buy my overpriced game? You don't have time. Exactly. And I mean, how is this going to work? Is Destiny Rising, is there some sort of perk that carries over between the entire Destiny universe? Will I unlock cool weapons or weapon skins if I play Destiny Rising? Is it a totally separate universe and it's just its own game? There's no benefits to the mainline Destiny players. I mean, are you trying to create a new audience, or are you trying to maintain your current audience and build a new audience and try like double down here? I mean, and that was the struggle with Concord, was they were like, hey, our experience is $40. We know Fortnite's free. We know Destiny's free. We know almost every other hero shooter on the market is free. But yeah, we want we want your money. So it's a difficult situation here. So I don't know. I don't know if Destiny Rising is a good idea. I think Bungie is at this point where, people are not reacting to Marathon very well. People that have played it in various, test phases and stuff. A lot of fans, especially people that play like Tarkov and stuff, were looking at that game and they were like, this is just not good. It's not fun. It's not something I would enjoy. And, Marathon historically was, a shooter that was similar to Doom and a precursor to Halo. So I would think that Marathon would need to sort of tread in some of the same footsteps that Halo went, and not try to go with the flow of, oh, well, what's popular now? Hero shooters. Or, oh, what's popular now? Extraction shooters. Because by the time you get this extraction shooter out the door, you already have competition, right? You got Tarkov, you got DMZ in Call of Duty, you got MWZ, you got Delta Force coming out with their Hazard Ops. I mean, there's Hunt Showdown just did like a major overhaul of their game. I mean, there's already a lot of very competitive extraction shooters, and there's more that I didn't even name. There's a whole bunch. And there's more people that are probably trying to enter that space. And it just feels like you're going to be in there too late, and then you're going to realize it. And you're going to have to, I just don't see a bright future for Marathon. I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. But it is a risky space. It's a risky challenge. And if Marathon doesn't do well, what does that mean for Bungie as a studio? What does that mean for the future of Destiny? If they're banking on like, hey, if we make a lot of money doing this, we can keep Destiny alive. We can, follow this up with like another exciting storyline or something like that. How about they don't focus on microtransactions and actually have the season DLC progress the story and the lore? That's an interesting comment right there. Okay, so, I mean, we know that Concord had 3 seasons scheduled, okay? It had 3 seasons scheduled. Destiny 2's latest expansion, The Final Shape, has 3 episodes that are meant to come out. And it's usually tied to like FOMO is how a lot of this stuff works. And Concord with the weekly cutscenes, you have to know that Concord was going to be absolutely banking on the FOMO blueprint that everyone's using with their live service games. They say, hey, you got to be playing this week because we have a cutscene, we have new weapons to chase or characters or maps or whatever it may be, right? Well, like whatever brings you in, right? So, but they also have to make money. So if they're going free to play, they have to get you with the microtransactions, right? Because all these studios, they have employees to pay, right? So if they're not making $40 off the initial investment of the game, if they're not making you buy it, then there you go. So they do have to sell you on either buying new outfits, weapon skins, or paying for DLC expansions, purchasing a season pass, whatever it is, right? Because at some point they have to make money. I like First Descendant, but the pricing is going to be the downfall of the entire genre. I mean, that's also true. You can also have like really bad pricing structures. Destiny has had at certain points where, some of their best loot was behind Eververse, and a lot of that stuff was expensive. It'd be like, like $14, $20 for like a full outfit for your character, and it's like, dude, that's like a third of what the game costs, So it's up to you whether you are the whale that can, sort of spend and invest in your games. And I find that when you enjoy a game, we kind of talked about this with Helldivers, but I've found that when you enjoy a game, it's not really a problem, right? When you enjoy a game, you're like, you know what, I will purchase that outfit, I'm gonna throw them a 20, I love the devs. They did a good job with the game. I think this outfit looks cool. I would feel awesome wearing it, so I'm gonna do it. And I'd love to support the team and keep the game going. So I've done that. I've done that with Avengers. I've done it with Helldivers. I've purchased all their little season passes or war bonds, as they call them. And I can hardly get one finished before they come out with another one. They were coming out with them so fast. I think they've slowed down now, which is honestly a good thing, because it does give you time to unlock all that stuff. The no-lifers will always, speed run through anything you give them. But yeah, it's a delicate balance there. It's like, can devs charge money for the game? Or if they go free to play, how are they going to monetize? If they do monetize, have they monetized in a scummy way? Are players' expectations in, some sort of, I don't know, unreasonable location, right? Exactly. I don't mind cosmetics, but necessary characters that lock story behind paywalls is where I draw the line. Yeah, that can always be difficult as well. I mean, it's easier if you're keeping up with that world. If you're, it's kind of like when I told you with Destiny, it's like, it's kind of easy if you're just buying one expansion a year and, you know, you're playing through it and you're keeping up with it. But if you're coming into Destiny for the first time and you're like, okay, well, how many expansions do I need to buy? You know? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got to buy like 8 expansions, and then I have to play through each one. And by the time I get to the end of one of them, another one comes out and I'm already behind. Or you guys are playing the latest season, now I'm getting left behind in the dust or whatever. I mean, Destiny has ways, you know, to allow you to keep up, and, you know, players are willing to help you, like, play old activities and stuff like that. But yeah, putting things behind paywalls can get difficult for sure. But I do think that Destiny has one of the best structures when it comes to that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think they have some of the best structures because it's like you know what you're getting. A new expansion includes a new map, new powers, new guns, new armor, you know, new characters come in, you know, the story does progress, you know, you get to level up to a new threshold, you know, you know what you're getting, and it's usually like $30 to $60 or something. I don't know, it depends on what edition you get, but I mean, like, the average cost of an expansion, let's just say $30, right? Like, not bad. You know what you're getting, you know what you're investing in, they tell you ahead of time, you know, and then you're probably also like prepaying for dungeons and the season pass essentially as well. So I mean, you're already paying for like a year's worth of content. And they give you a roadmap of like what to expect and when to expect it and what it's going to be, you know, just some rough outlines. And I think that's the best way to do it, because I've seen people try to do other ways and it just becomes ridiculous. Yeah, Warframe is really solid too. They've done a really good job, and I mean, the fact that they have TennoCon where they literally rally the entire community to their own convention to sort of talk about what's next in the game and to, you know, connect with the fan base and do all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, there is absolutely a lot of, you know, microtransactions within that game. There's a lot of stuff to unlock. You know, there's, you know, any of these games that have sort of like an in-game marketplace as well, you know, things get very interesting, things get very difficult at that point. It's a difficult conversation, but you know, most of the time, I would say most of the time, microtransactions are not super predatory. When we know it, we call it out, but most of the time, people are overreacting. Most of the time. Because people don't understand it's a business and you have to make money. But there is a certain point where it's like, okay, did you set your prices too high? Are you locking players out of an experience that arguably should be in the game? Like, are you making me pay $50 so I can sprint? Or are you charging me $9 a month so I can have a bigger storage box in the game? And the game's all about collecting loot, right? You know, whatever it could be. Yeah, EVE Online is an interesting one too, for sure. I was going to look at one other thing. Okay. One of the other things I have to report and just kind of like catch everybody up on was I did order Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, but my Amazon here is saying that even though this item will be released September 5th, 2024, it's okay. Let me go to my order history. I just want to see if it updated. It might not do anything until the morning, because yeah, it hadn't even. Yeah, it's just saying that it might arrive September 11th. So I might be getting into Space Marine 2 late. Yeah, I did call out Fallout right there with the you know, paying $9 a month for the stash, because I am realizing that the stash is too small for me to play the game. So what I'm having to do is I'm having to give you my loot. I'm having to give TX my loot. I gave him all of my all of my consumable, what do you call it, your junk, right? I gave him all my crafting materials that I've had, like thousands upon thousands of crafting materials that I've given to him, because I can't store it. It's just not possible. I either carry it on my person and I'm constantly over encumbered, or I try to put part of it in my storage and part of it on me, and then I get over encumbered anyway, and then I can't stash my guns or any new things that I unlock. It starts to become difficult. But yeah, Space Marine 2, I hate to say it, unless anyone reaches out with codes, I will probably not be covering that game tomorrow as I wanted to at launch, Gold Edition. But I wanted a physical edition. I wanted that Steelbook. There's just some games that I'm kind of prideful of, and I want to have like a physical copy of, and I want to be able to put it on my shelf and show that I have that game. And especially now with the way digital media is going, games are being disappeared and delisted and shut down and stuff like that. And, there's no way you can continue to play them, even the single player in some senses, if you don't have, if you don't have the disc, and they might even find other ways to mess that up further. Let me see if there's anything else coming. Yeah, the idea of ownership is that could be a whole podcast in and of itself. That's a very difficult conversation, but when I can get physical editions of games, and sometimes when I order through Amazon, that usually introduces the idea of shipping delays and other sorts of issues that come with it. So, but I think that's all I have today. I don't have any other headlines or pressing news. I'm just going to check the feeds one more time. What's up? Welcome. We're just kind of wrapping up the podcast for today. You guys want me to do some WuKong? Should we do some WuKong for the rest of the night? I know it's already getting a little late, but we could shift over to some Black Myth WuKong. I do need to defeat that yellow long boss fight, and of course we need to explore further on into the game. I mean, that might be something that we need to do there. But yeah, I just couldn't get a hold of a physical copy in my area. I tried to check over at GameStop. They were sold out. So I was like, you know what? Amazon has them. I just have to, wait on the order. And it looks like it's not working out really good. Oh, you tried the Elden Ring demake? How was that? Those are always kind of fun. Yeah, but Space Marine 2 is looking really good. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. It's getting good reviews today, so I think that's very exciting. One other thing about Concord is IGN, in their brainless way, has put out an article that says after, the failure of Concord, it's time for Sony to bring back Killzone and Resistance. I don't entirely disagree. I do think Killzone, Resistance, SOCOM, I think there's a place for all those games, right? I think SOCOM could come back as like a militaristic tactical shooter. They could have single player, they could have PvP, they could have a PvE extraction style gameplay. They could have military ops where we, kind of do what you would do in a kind of do almost what Arma does, just drop you in a war zone, open world, give you a couple objectives, and you and your team, decide how to do it. They give you some vehicles, helicopters, whatever, and, give you whatever you need, and you just go for it on the mission. But I would worry, like, how Sony would bring back these franchises, whether it's Killzone, Resistance, SOCOM. Killzone was very much their answer to Halo. Resistance was definitely an interesting concept, right? Like aliens invading during World War II. It had incredible graphics. It had, high counts of enemies on the screen. But those games, they kind of fizzled out in their own way. Like, they told their stories, and like it just feels like they're done. Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to bring them back and like full reboot, or do you want to like pick up off the events? But then, how are players going to re-experience the events of the older games if they're not available? Because they're on PS3, they're on older platforms. You haven't made a sequel in 2 console generations. Yeah, 6 Days in Fallujah would be, that'd be dope. And SOCOM always kept the third-person shooter angle. I also really loved the headset integration, the fact that you could talk to your troops in SOCOM and give them orders. Like, a futuristic version of that would be really cool. But, I mean, the state of where gaming is, I feel like they're going to want to turn SOCOM into a hero shooter or an extraction shooter, which, like, they could do extraction shooter right, but it's hard. It's not easy. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while on the microphone integration. Not a lot of games have taken advantage. I remember Tom Clancy's End War did pretty good for an RTS. They certainly allowed that to happen. So, I don't know. That seems, from IGN, that kind of seems like a little bit of a brain dead answer. It's like, well, bring back your other shooters. It's like, did we really think that one through before that article was published? Maybe we should. Maybe we should think, maybe run it by an editor before we publish things that are kind of stupid or don't make sense or are financially unviable, because they do have sort of a vocal impact in the industry. What they say, developers could read and potentially go through on. And maybe that's not the best idea, Sony's obviously listening. They're obviously looking around to see what's going on. Yeah, the DS. The DS was super cool. I mean, you had the blow into the microphone to make something move on the screen. You could blow some dust off a book, Yeah, I mean, there were several like really good uses. Yeah, I mean, don't listen to IGN is kind of the first big thing there. I don't think too many people take them seriously, but they are a large presence in gaming media, so I mean, that's what happens here. But yeah, Space Marine 2 is getting a lot of 8s and 9s, and I think, was it IGN that gave him like a 7? No, they gave him an 8. That's interesting. I feel like they always have to be on the lower end of all the other ones. Everyone else will be like 9, 9, 9, 10, whatever, and then, IGN will be like 7 or 6, with a lot of games. Which is really weird. They gave Concord a 7, they gave Starfield a 7. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, I mean, Greg Miller was incredible talent there. I mean, I actually really like Fran Mirabella. I thought he always did a lot of Destiny stuff. He was on that podcast, the Fire Team Chat and all that. And I've always liked a lot of his takes on gaming. I feel like he's kind of fair and leveled and balanced on a lot of stuff. So I still really enjoy following him. And I kind of enjoy checking out the Kind of Funny crew. Of course, I enjoy seeing Danny Pena and Paris Lilly. They sort of coalesce in that scene, and they have their own thing. They have Gamertag Radio. I enjoy listening to other people's perspectives, especially when they're like a positive force in the industry. So. Interesting. I guess we'll see. But yeah, I think for now, Black Myth Wukong is the jam until we get some other games in here. I'll do some coverage of Space Marine 2 as soon as I'm able. Yeah, we'll go from there. So, once again, I want to thank you all for watching. Don't forget to support the podcast on all platforms. We are everywhere that podcasts are available. You can find us live on YouTube in video format and everywhere else in audio format. I'll get that podcast uploaded to the feeds tonight. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about the 5000 series cards. I mean, I'm not going to be able to, I'm going to have to build a whole new PC for that. I mean, I think a lot of that news would have to come out. That would probably be like next year if they end up dropping that. So yeah, they're already, they're probably talking about it and, teasing it and doing stuff like that. Yeah, you would need like a whole new PC. I mean, because for me, my motherboard's from 2016. A lot of my parts in there from then, and I got the i7 8700K, and I've got the RTX 3080 Ti, and it's just a mismatch of like, hey, you have some high performance stuff here, and then some other things are a little more dated, and it's already starting to look like I need a new motherboard and processor and all that stuff. It's starting to become dated. But yeah, I mean, the 5000 series would be exciting. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. At this point, I'm probably going to drift to the console space and play there until I can afford upgrades, because it's financially untenable, and who knows what the price of the 5000 series is going to be. And then everybody's going to be trying to get a hold of them, and then production's going to be, supply and demand is going to be all out of sync. And if it's like every other graphics card release, there's going to be the scalpers and dudes like that selling them online for outrageous prices. So I don't know. For me, I don't know if it's worth moving up at all at this point. It would be nice to just get a new motherboard and processor and ride out the 3080 for as long as I can, because that's the one part of my setup that's fine. I think a lot of the issues I'm having are the rest of the setup. And potentially maybe having a streaming PC and a gaming PC would be really nice. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to shut it down here. We will be back with some Black Myth WuKong later tonight. Give me a few minutes to get set up on that. But I want to thank you all for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Make sure you leave a review on the podcast outlets where you are watching or listening to the podcast. So, thank you for watching. Take care. Be safe. Don't forget to check all the links in the description. I've got merch. I've got the website. I've got all sorts of interesting stuff that I'm working on. Check all that down below. Take care. Be safe. And we'll see you for Shackcast number 60 very soon. Bye.